Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're taking a look at how cryptocurrency is pushing the boundaries of data center innovation.
It's a pretty fascinating area.
It really is. And to help us out, we've got some really great sources lined up. We've got a few articles from HVAC Journal, like Cryptocurrency Drives Data Center Innovation,
Mm-hmm.
The Future of Artificial Intelligence in Buildings, and even one on free cooling technologies, which should be pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then we've got this technical report here called Comparison of Server Liquid Cooling Technologies
Okay.
from Siska Hennessy Group, Liquid Stack, and the Chimers Company. So, those are some pretty big names in the industry.
For sure.
And yeah, we're going to try to take all these different perspectives and really understand what's happening.
Sounds good.
So one of the things that really struck me when I was reading through these was just how an industry that was initially seen as, so energy intensive
Right.
is now actually kind of at the forefront of sustainable and efficient data centers.
Yeah, it's kind of a surprising turn, right?
It is. It is surprising. I remember when cryptocurrency mining was all about, repurposing old power plants,
Yeah.
which, doesn't exactly scream cutting edge green tech.
No, not quite. But the truth is that image is changing really rapidly.
Right.
Cryptocurrency is actually now driving innovation in a lot of key areas of data center technology.
Right.
And one of the biggest ones is cooling.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the ASHRE journal article that we were talking about earlier
Yeah.
really highlighted how the density
Right.
of crypto mining operations and the fact that they're running constantly
Yes.
generates just an incredible amount of heat.
It's a lot of heat, and that's why traditional air cooling just really struggles to keep up.
Yeah.
So the crypto world has actually been one of the main drivers behind adopting liquid cooling solutions.
Okay, so what kinds of liquid cooling are we talking about here?
Well, one of the most fascinating approaches is liquid immersion cooling.
Liquid immersion cooling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you literally submerge the servers in this special dielectric fluid.
Wow. So no more massive air conditioning systems.
Well, ideally not as many.
That's wild.
It's pretty wild.
So I was actually reading about this in the Comparison of Server Liquid Cooling Technologies report.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the two main types of liquid immersion cooling.
Right. You have single phase and two phase.
Right.
Single phase is kind of like a closed loop system. The fluid is constantly circulating to remove the heat,
Okay.
whereas two phase is even more innovative, I think.
Okay.
It utilizes the principle of evaporation and condensation. So basically, the fluid actually boils around the hot components,
Oh, wow.
absorbing the heat as it vaporizes,
Okay.
and then it condenses, releasing the heat elsewhere.
Wow. So it's like using the heat to actually change the state of the fluid and then moving that fluid away to cool it down.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
And it's incredibly efficient. That report actually highlighted that two-phase immersion cooling can achieve a significantly lower power usage effectiveness, or PUE,
Okay.
compared to both single-phase and even direct-to-chip cooling.
Wow. And a lower PUE means less energy consumed?
Absolutely. And that translates into a potentially significant reduction in a data center's cooling energy consumption, which is obviously a huge plus for the environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So it seems like these crypto folks are onto something here.
They are. And the best part, it's not just limited to the crypto world.
Oh, really?
As server densities keep rising across all industries,
Huh?
these more efficient cooling solutions are becoming crucial for the entire data center ecosystem.
So the crypto world is kind of like a testing ground for the data centers of the future.
In a lot of ways, yeah.
That's pretty cool. But it's not just about cooling, right? I mean, another area where cryptocurrency is really making waves is in the adoption of renewable energy.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing to see how an industry that was once seen as, a bit of an energy hog
Right.
is now actually helping to push us towards a more sustainable energy future.
So how exactly is that happening?
Well, the ASHRE journal article that we mentioned earlier explains that crypto mining's operational flexibility can actually help balance the grid
Okay.
when you're using these fluctuating renewable sources like solar and wind power.
Oh, that's interesting.
So, imagine a scenario where there's a surplus of solar power during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Crypto mining operations can actually ramp up their activity
Okay.
and soak up that extra energy so it's not wasted.
So they're like a buffer for the grid.
In a way, yes. And then conversely, when the demand is high and renewable generation dips, they can scale back.
Oh, I see, I see. That's fascinating. So it's like a symbiotic relationship almost
Yep.
between the crypto mining and the renewable energy sources.
Yeah, exactly. And it actually goes beyond just grid balancing.
Okay.
That article actually highlighted a company called Crusoe Energy.
Crusoe energy.
Yeah, they're doing some really cool stuff. They capture wasted natural gas.
Wasted natural gas.
Yeah, from oil drilling operations.
Wow.
And they use that gas to power crypto mining.
So they're turning what was basically an environmental hazard
Yeah,
into a resource.
exactly. And that really changes the whole narrative around crypto's environmental impact, doesn't it?
It does. That's amazing. And I mean, and it gets even better than that, right? Because the UN has highlighted how blockchain technology itself,
Yeah.
which is the backbone of cryptocurrency,
Right.
can actually contribute to ESG goals,
Yeah.
environmental, social, governance.
Right. It's a really exciting frontier, I think. I mean, the potential for blockchain in that area is huge.
Wow. Okay, so we've got liquid cooling, renewable energy synergy, and now blockchain for ESG. It seems like cryptocurrency is really shaking things up in ways that I never even imagined.
It really is. And we're just scratching the surface here.
But before we get too carried away, let's bring another key player into this data center evolution: artificial intelligence.
Ah, yes, AI. It's fascinating how quickly it's transforming so many industries.
It is. And data centers are no exception.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that Future of Artificial Intelligence in Buildings article that we mentioned earlier paints this really interesting picture of how AI is already transforming the way we design and operate buildings.
It is. It's changing everything.
Yeah. And data centers are kind of at the forefront of that revolution.
Absolutely. Imagine AI systems that can control the lighting and temperature in a data center in real time,
Oh, wow.
optimizing energy use with incredible precision.
Yeah.
Talk about a smart building.
That's amazing. So it's like having this invisible brain constantly monitoring and adjusting everything
Yeah,
to
basically.
make sure it's running as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, exactly. AI can actually analyze vast amounts of data from all these sensors and systems, identifying patterns and inefficiencies that humans might miss. And that allows us to make these really fine-tuned adjustments,
Okay.
ensuring that the data center is operating at peak performance while minimizing its environmental footprint.
Wow. So it feels like we're kind of on the verge of this whole new era of data centers,
I think so, yeah.
built for the future, powered by renewable energy, cooled by liquid immersion,
Mm-hmm.
and managed by AI.
That's the future right there.
That's pretty exciting stuff.
It is. It really is. And these innovations are actually coming together to create data centers that look vastly different from the traditional model. For instance, that Cryptocurrency Drives Data Center Innovation article, it points out that we're seeing this architectural shift towards what's called a spine and leaf network architecture.
Spine and leaf.
Yeah.
What is that?
Well, think of it like a tree. The spine is like the central trunk,
Uh-huh.
providing this high bandwidth connectivity,
Okay.
and the leaves are like the servers branching out from it.
Okay.
So this architecture allows for faster and more efficient communication between the servers,
Mhm.
which is super important when you're handling these massive data flows in modern data centers.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that article also mentioned this massive increase in power demand and fiber connections, right? It's kind of mind-boggling to think about just how much data we're generating and processing these days.
It really is.
Makes me wonder what other radical changes we might see in the data center of the future.
It's an exciting time to be in this industry, that's for sure. But with all this excitement, it's also important to acknowledge the challenges.
Oh, right, of course.
I mean, one of the key hurdles highlighted in that Future of Artificial Intelligence in Buildings article is the data availability challenge,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually hindering AI development.
Okay, so you're saying if AI is going to truly revolutionize data centers,
Right.
it needs access to even more data.
It needs massive data sets to
Yeah.
learn and evolve. But getting everyone in the industry on board with data sharing, that's proving to be a bit of an obstacle.
Yeah, data sharing is definitely a hot topic these days. I mean, it's not just about the technology, right? It's about fostering a culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing.
Absolutely. And we also need to consider the human element. I mean,
Yeah.
building these advanced AI systems and managing these next generation data centers requires a skilled workforce. I mean, that brings up an important question for you, the listener.
Mm-hmm.
What skills do you think will be most valuable in this rapidly evolving data center landscape? I mean, it's something to think about as we navigate this technological revolution together.
It is.
Mm.
It is something to think about. But we'll dive deeper into that in part 2.
Welcome back to our exploration of data center innovation. Before we move on, I actually wanted to add to our discussion about AI's role in data centers.
Okay.
It's not just about optimizing energy use.
Right.
AI can be a real game changer when it comes to predicting and preventing equipment failure.
Oh, that's a good point. Because, data centers are critical infrastructure,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So any downtime can have a huge impact.
Huge. So tell me, how do you think AI can help with that? Imagine this, right? AI systems that are constantly monitoring data from all these sensors and systems.
Throughout the data center, looking for subtle patterns
Yeah.
and anomalies that might indicate a potential failure. It's like having a virtual detective constantly on a lookout for problems.
Oh, that's really cool. So instead of waiting for something to break down,
Right.
AI can actually alert operators to potential issues before they even happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can save a lot of headaches and money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really fascinating. So it's another example of how AI is changing the way we manage these data centers.
I think so, yeah.
But, speaking of innovation, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about another trend
Okay.
that's been gaining some traction. Free cooling.
Ah, yes. Free cooling. It's this really interesting concept where you leverage naturally cool air or water
Okay.
to help cool those servers.
Uh-huh.
And that can reduce, maybe even eliminate, the need for those energy-intensive chillers.
That sounds really efficient.
It is.
I know we came across an HVAC journal article, I think it was titled, "Which Free Cooling Technology Should We Select for Data Centers?" Yeah, that's right.
And it really delved into the different approaches to free cooling. Can you kind of remind me what those were?
Sure. There are a bunch of different methods,
Okay.
each with its own, pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
You've got air side economizers, for example. They use outside air to directly cool the data center when the temperatures are low enough.
Okay.
Then you've got indirect evaporative cooling. That uses evaporation to cool the air, but without adding any extra moisture to the data center.
Okay.
And then there's adiabatic cooling, which also utilizes the cooling effect of evaporation, but it's specifically used to lower the temperature of incoming air.
Oh, okay. So it's not just one size fits all.
No, not at all.
It really depends on a lot of different factors
Yeah,
like
yeah.
climate and humidity levels.
Right. What might work well in one location might not be the best in another location.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really fascinating to see how all these different innovations are coming together to shape the data center of the future. We've got liquid cooling, AI, free cooling, renewable energy integration. It's like we're building this really carefully orchestrated symphony of technologies,
Yeah, it is.
all working together to achieve this, maximum efficiency and sustainability.
Yeah, it's really cool to see it all come together like this. And as we generate and process more and more data, these innovations are going to be even more critical.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it kind of brings us back to one of the challenges we talked about earlier,
Right.
the need for greater data sharing in the industry to really unlock the potential of AI.
Yeah, that Future of Artificial Intelligence in Buildings article really hammered that point home.
It did. If we want AI to revolutionize data centers and other building systems, we really need to have access to these vast amounts of data.
We do. I think we need to move away from these data silos and really foster a culture of collaboration and knowledge sharing. Think about it. The more data that AI has access to, the better it can learn, adapt, and optimize.
Mm-hmm. It's also giving a student access to a huge library, right?
Exactly. The more information they have, the more they can learn and grow.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
But data sharing is only part of the equation, right?
Right.
We also need to think about the human element here.
Yeah.
We need skilled professionals who can design, build, operate, and manage these data centers that are just becoming increasingly complex.
Absolutely. And we need to make sure that our educational institutions are actually providing the right training and resources to these future professionals so they can really thrive in this rapidly evolving field.
Yeah. We're talking engineers, architects, cybersecurity experts, data scientists. This is a multidisciplinary field that needs a wide range of expertise.
Yeah. Makes you wonder what the data center of the future will look like, right?
Yeah. What other technologies might emerge? What skills will be most in demand? It's really exciting to think about the possibilities.
It is. And it's so hard to predict with any certainty given how quickly things are changing. But I think we're going to continue to see this convergence of technologies blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds. I mean, data centers might even become more distributed, moving closer to the edge, driven by this need for lower latency and faster processing. We might even see data centers integrated into our cities and infrastructure in ways that we can't even imagine yet.
Yeah. Data centers could become this seamless part of our lives, right?
Good.
Powering everything from smart cities to autonomous vehicles to personalized healthcare experiences. It's really a future filled with both amazing potential, but also some really important things to think about.
You're absolutely right. And that's actually a conversation for another time.
It is.
Because we've reached the end of part 2 of our deep dive.
We have.
And we're going to wrap up our exploration in part 3 with some final food for thought.
Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into data center innovation. It's been quite a journey exploring how cryptocurrency, artificial intelligence, and even free cooling are revolutionizing these facilities.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
Absolutely. And one thing that keeps coming up is just the sheer volume of data that we're generating these days. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
Which kind of leads to a question that's been on my mind. As these data centers become larger and more complex, how do we make sure that they remain secure? I mean, cybersecurity is more important than ever.
Right, and data centers are definitely prime targets.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right to raise that concern. Cybersecurity is a top priority for any data center operator. It's a multi-layered challenge, really. It requires a very holistic approach. You have to think about physical security measures, robust network security protocols, and then stringent data encryption practices.
So you're saying it's not just about protecting data from hackers trying to break in from the outside?
No, not at all. We also need to be thinking about insider threats. Employees with malicious intent, or even those who unintentionally make mistakes, can also compromise data security. That's why having strong security protocols, strict access controls, and comprehensive employee training. These are all absolutely essential.
Wow. It sounds like a lot to juggle. I mean, you've got energy efficiency, sustainability, AI integration, and now cybersecurity. Managing a modern data center must be an incredibly demanding job.
It is. It really is. Data center managers these days need a pretty diverse skill set.
I bet.
They need to be tech savvy enough to really understand the complexities of the infrastructure. But then they also need strong leadership and communication skills to manage teams and coordinate operations.
Okay, so it's not just about the technical side of things.
No, not at all. It's a very multifaceted role.
Yeah, and they also have to be strategic thinkers.
Right.
You know, anticipating future trends.
Yes.
But also able to, dive into the technical details when they need to.
Absolutely. It's a balancing act, for sure.
And it's a role that's constantly evolving, too, right?
Oh,
I mean, as the technology advances and the demands on these data centers continue to grow.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So for anyone out there who's thinking about a career in data centers, be prepared to embrace lifelong learning.
Absolutely.
And adapt to a rapidly changing landscape.
It's a fast-paced field.
Yeah, it sounds like it. The future of data centers is bright, though, wouldn't you say?
Oh, incredibly bright.
Yeah.
But it's also full of challenges. I think it's really up to all of us, industry leaders, researchers, policymakers, future professionals, to work together to ensure that these facilities are secure, sustainable, and able to really support all those incredible innovations that are shaping our world.
That's a great point. Well said. As we wrap up our deep dive, I think it's important to remember that while we've explored all these amazing technologies that are transforming data centers, it really all comes back to people.
It does.
It's about the brilliant minds that are designing these systems, the skilled professionals who are keeping them running, and all the countless individuals who benefit from the data that's flowing through them.
I love that. That's a perfect note to end on, I think. The future of data centers is about empowering people and enabling progress.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a wrap on another deep dive.
It was a good one.
We hope you enjoyed our exploration of data center innovation.
Me too.
And we encourage you to keep diving deeper into these topics that really piqued your interest. Until next time.
Keep exploring.